Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Wednesday morning to you all. Hope you guys are doing well out there. Certainly having a great start to your day, a great week out there so far. I appreciate you folks tuning in this morning as we continue to try to figure out what's going to happen with what is right now Tropical Storm Lee. Now, chances are, maybe on the next update here in about an hour, the 8 a.m. update from the National Hurricane Center, this could be Hurricane Lee, but as of right now, it's a 65 mile per hour tropical storm. But this thing is really steadily strengthening as I speak right now. So we're going to give you the latest information on Lee, what it looks like right now. The latest cone of uncertainty from the National Hurricane Center. We'll compare some model guidance, some ensembles, and really talk about the steering currents. A lot of people are wondering, where is this thing going to go? There's a lot of crazy hype out there. I try to keep that pretty low for you folks. Regardless of what some of the comments said in last night's video. You know, you can't control everybody's thinking. We're here to just talk about weather. I just choose to ignore the negativity. But I appreciate all the positivity that you guys put in the comments, because 99% of it is that. So thank you all for the amazing support. We're going to continue to try to figure this one out for you folks. I understand a lot of people are on high alert just because of what just happened with Idalia. I can tell you, for you folks in Florida, this has a near 0% chance to hit Florida. Okay, I know you're thinking, well, how can you be so confident? Well, I'll talk about that in this video. But there is areas of the eastern U.S. that need to be on alert. Not high alert, but just aware, I would say. That's probably the better word. So with that being said, if you folks have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. And for you folks who tune in every morning wanting to know what's going to happen weather-wise for today, we're not going to stray away from that. That'll just be in the entire second half of the video. We'll still keep the same energy for you folks. And in fact, we do have a severe weather threat today across the deep and mid-south that we will discuss in this video also. If you guys got anything that I can pray about or pray over, as always, please put those in the comments below. It gives me an opportunity to pray over it, and it gives others an opportunity to do so too. I really appreciate the steady growth lately, guys. I mean, I was just at 50,000 subscribers last week, about to hit 51 already. So it just tells you the growth is just coming in. So welcome to any new viewers, and thank you for choosing my channel to tune into. So let's get rolling. The latest 5 a.m. update, like I said, another update will roll in about 45 minutes to an hour. There's a chance that Lee will be a hurricane, but the information I'm about to talk on really won't change a whole lot. Now, it could change between now and the next 12 hours, but just because it upgrades to a hurricane, you know, that's the only thing that technically changes. We are expecting that here in the next update or two. Lee right now is a 997 millibar low pressure storm. That's important from what I'm about to show you on a hurricane model. So keep that number in mind, 997 millibar tropical storm right now. So it's a sub 1,000 millibar tropical cyclone, and it will stay below 1,000 for the foreseeable future until it eventually weakens probably in the North Atlantic, or if it hits land at some point. So that's what we're here to figure out. 65 mile per hour storm, moving west-northwest at about 14 miles per hour. So we look at the latest cone and a forecast to become a hurricane sometime today. Like I said, maybe the next update here at 8 a.m., maybe the next update after that, 11 a.m. We're in 3-hour increments at this point because we have a storm to actually track, so things can change from 3 hours to the next. So a forecast to become a major hurricane as early as tomorrow night sometime. If you don't know what a major hurricane is considered, that's a Category 3 or higher. Okay, so that's when we get major status. All right, so cone only goes out to 2 a.m. Monday. So 2 a.m. Monday, this should be chilling right here in the Western Atlantic. Not bothering anybody, hopefully. It looks like it's going to go north of Puerto Rico, the Leeward Islands, and well south of Bermuda. But what happens once it gets right here? That's a big question. Okay, and that's something we don't know. We're pretty confident it's going to make a turn north. But how quickly does it make a turn northeast and head out to sea? That's the big question. Zoom Earth, it's a great site. It's like combining Google Maps with the tropics. It's awesome. It's free to use. It's very easy to use. You can sit there and wiggle it around like this. But this is obviously a Tropical Storm Lee, soon to be Hurricane Lee. Forecast to become a hurricane maybe by late morning, early this afternoon. And then by the time we roll into overnight, 90 mile per hour hurricane. By the time we roll into tomorrow afternoon, it's a Category 2 hurricane. We'll go on and skip ahead. Should be a 140 mile per hour major Category 4 hurricane by Friday afternoon. I mean, that's here in a little over 48 hours. Okay, so that tells you how much Lee is about to strengthen. And we'll talk about why Lee could undergo some rapid intensification. Okay, we talked about it in big time detail in last night's video, but we'll do it again in this video. But now the peak forecast intensity is 150 miles per hour. But stay tuned, because that could change. All right, if it goes up another 5 to 10 miles per hour, that's Category 5 status. I believe once it hits 160 miles per hour, that's Category 5 status. Don't quote me on that. I should have that memorized, but I'll be honest, I do not. Have every other category mile per hour winds forecast except that. But this has a high ceiling. This will most likely, I would say this has a high chance to be a Category 5 hurricane. It just doesn't impact anybody. That's the big question. Okay, but right now, peak intensity is 150 miles per hour. Okay, Category 4, high-end Category 4 major hurricane. All right, so let's take a look at it right now. If you notice the screen goes from black to blue, it's because the sun's coming up on it. This is that true view on Tropical Tidbits. It's a great, beautiful thing to look at. Really, you can see the beautiful blue ocean out here, but unfortunately, you got this nasty looking tropical system. And look at it. It has that shrimp look to it, that circular symmetrical look to it. And one thing I want you to notice, guys, and we talked about this in great detail yesterday, in both videos yesterday, is this incredible outflow going like, you see these high cirrus clouds right here going like this in the opposite direction as the low level spin right here that all tropical systems go in the northern hemisphere. Okay, winds going in the opposite direction. That is what we call an outflow. Okay, this thing's living and breathing well. Okay, we call this an anticyclonic flow. I mentioned it in great detail in last night's video, but this thing is cooking and it is breathing very well. It's ventilating very well, and it's because winds on top of the storm in the upper levels of the atmosphere, okay, away from that low level spin, which is moving in this direction right here, is moving in the opposite direction. This is helping to basically push air away from the center of the storm, which is right here. So air rises throughout the middle of the storm, and then once it gets to the upper levels of the atmosphere, it gets pushed away. This allows more air to rise, and it gets pushed away from this incredible anticyclonic flow. It's called a ULAC, upper level anticyclone, right on top of the system. A little off position, but it doesn't matter. So you got the warm sea surface temperatures, which I haven't talked much on, but we know that's a little above average out here. And even if it wasn't, the sea surface temperatures out here will totally support tropical development. You can check that off the box. The upper wind pattern, which is what I'm discussing right now, is high end. It supports, at minimum, gradual strengthening of a tropical system, but it also supports significant strengthening of a tropical system, and that is what's forecast from the National Hurricane Center. So this thing's breathing well. When you see cirrus clouds expanding out like this in the opposite direction, these high cirrus clouds in the upper levels of the atmosphere, you know that this thing is, like I said, cooking. It's breathing well, and it's a very healthy tropical system, and it very well could be a hurricane right now. Okay, so we'll go on and get this off your screen here, and we'll keep moving. And another way to look at this is this shows us the colors of the convection. So we know that when you see these whites pop up right here, these are higher cloud tops. I mean, even the reds and the dark reds also. When you see these whites and blacks pop up, these are very high cloud tops, indicated right over here on the right of your screen. So this indicates basically hot towers, basically updrafts getting very high up in the atmosphere. And we know when these convective updrafts get very high up in the upper levels of the atmosphere, we know that we are getting some explosive thunderstorm development right near the center, outside the center. And this is because, this is because of that outflow. And you can see it right here on this too. This storm is ventilating very well. It's breathing, and air is able to rise in the middle of the system, in all areas of the system. Therefore, you just have a really an amazing environment for this system to just thrive in and just continuously pop off convection, that shower and storm activity. So let's keep it rolling. Let's take a look at some model guidance. We'll take a look at the Euro first. Now, remember what I said. It's initializing at 997. This could be stronger by the time we get to the 8 a.m. update. Might be a 995, 994. Initializing right now. It's not initializing. That's what it is. It's a 997 millibar low pressure storm. So we take it back to the Euro. The euro is what I mean is the euro is initializing at 1,004 millibar low pressure storm. Remember, the higher the number, the weaker the storm. The lower this number, the stronger the storm. So it's initializing. Basic math, Mitch. Basic math. 7 millibars higher than what it actually is. So the euro is already off. Okay, and the euro has this just gradually strengthening as we get into Thursday morning. In fact, it hasn't weakening. So we're waking up Thursday morning and the euro is saying this is going to be 1,001 millibar low pressure storm. So I can tell you, the euro, strength-wise, in the short to medium term, I would say the short term is off its rocks. It's not doing well at all. It's and it kind of did the same thing with Idalia. In fact, it didn't it did. It just had it way too weak. So we keep this going, and I really honestly wouldn't focus too much on what the strength is. We get into Friday morning, we get into Saturday morning, we stop it right here. And this is when finally the euro catches on that this is going to rapidly strengthen, even though it could be already rapidly strengthening right now. And then we have Lee at a 981 millibar hurricane Saturday morning just northeast of the Leeward Islands, right here, okay? I would argue this could be as much as 20 to 25 to 30 millibars lower than what the actual euro is showing at this point right here. In fact, I'm not going to guarantee it, but I'm close to guaranteeing it. Okay, so this is off strength-wise. But let's look at the path that the euro shows, because I would tell you that the euro did decently well on the path of Idalia. It did. With sticking to its guns with the Big Bend region of Florida, and ultimately that's exactly where it made landfall. All right, so we move to the Western Atlantic. Okay, now we got Cuba, Dominican Republic, Haiti, Puerto Rico, Florida, Georgia, Carolinas, Virginia, and up into the Delmarva region. All right, here it comes. All right, we get into Sunday morning. Doesn't strengthen a whole lot, but definitely strengthens some. I would say that's a moderate amount of strengthening. So it has it down to a 968 millibar hurricane at this point. And then we get to Monday morning. This is at a 940 major hurricane Monday morning. I would argue this is a Category 4 hurricane or high-end Category 3. All right, so it's just starting to enter what some people dub the Bermuda Triangle or whatever. Bermuda north, Puerto Rico to the south. It's well south of Bermuda, okay? And you would think, all right, this is getting worrisome. It's getting a little bit closer to the southeast in the Bahamas. Well, this is when it finds a weakness and it begins to kind of stall out. And my word, I mean, look at it. It's a 926 millibar hurricane. That's pushing high-end Category 4 status, maybe Category 5 status. Okay? That's just guesstimating. All right, and then it begins to kind of sneak northward. So, I mean, we're getting into Wednesday morning at this point. This is a 918 millibar hurricane based off the euro, Category 5 hurricane. Then it begins to make that turn north, and then by the time we're getting into Thursday morning, it's moving due north. Next Thursday morning, not tomorrow, next Thursday morning, September the 14th. That really just tells you how long we're going to be talking about this. And it really tells you how much time we have for things to change. Okay? But I really don't think this is going to head. I really don't. Now, I can hear people in the comments screaming, Mitch, you just don't know. You just don't know. You compare it with Irma and what it did, this, that, and the other. But I really don't think this is going to head into Florida. Okay? Most model guidance agrees with this, but model guidance changes, and I'm definitely fully aware of that. But this begins to head due north, and then we get into Friday morning, September the 15th. And when I say that about Florida, I don't want you guys just to totally ignore the storm. That's not what I'm saying. And by the way, the crazy TikTok lady said a Category 6 hurricane was going to hit Florida today. So, man, we're waiting on that Category 6 hurricane, whatever that is, because we only go up to Category 5. So, if you don't know what I'm talking about with that, just look it up. If you got TikTok. If you don't, good for you. Good for you. That's a very weird and toxic app. I use it to try to promote, good information on weather without the hype. But there's a lot of people that just, oof, man. We'll leave it at that. All right. So at this point, Friday morning, 228 hours out. Friday morning, September the 15th, we have a 957, probably Category 3 hurricane between Bermuda and the Outer Banks. But watch as I go another several hours, okay? Watch how this nudges north and then maybe northwest. You don't like to see that. You see that little nudge northwest? And I'll tell you why it does that here in a second. But that is concerning. But it's the euro. The GFS doesn't do that so much. but I'm about to show you the GFS here. So we'll stop it here. This is 240 hours out. It's 10 days out, guys. We're still talking about this 10 days from now, coming up on September the 16th. All right. GFS initializing a little too strong. Okay, at a 9, in fact, really too strong. And it's initializing this morning as a 982 millibar hurricane, which I would argue is a mid-grade Category 1 hurricane. Okay, it's not that strong. Now, maybe on the next update they bump it this low, and maybe the GFS is closer than what we think. But at what we know right now from the 5 a.m. update, it is not this strong. So we keep this going. And we get into Thursday morning, and GFS kind of keeps it around the same strength. We get into Friday morning, and GFS is starting to rapidly intensify. At this point, we have a 959 millibar low pressure hurricane. One would argue that's a Category 3 hurricane at this point. And then we take it to Saturday morning, and we have a 943 Category 3 low wind Category 4 hurricane just northeast of the Leeward Islands, which pretty much matches what the National Hurricane Center is saying. Okay, so we'll go on and flip it to the Western Atlantic. Same kind of thing which we just did with the Euro. We go into Sunday morning. This turns into just a bulldozer of a hurricane, but it's not bothering anybody. 936 millibar hurricane, Category 4 most likely. Monday morning, September the 11th, powerful hurricane. Tuesday morning, September the 12th, powerful hurricane, but it's not bothering anybody. It's between Bermuda, Puerto Rico, and the Bahamas. All right, we get into Wednesday morning. This is starting to get close to Bermuda, and it starts to take that north turn that you just noticed, okay? We take it into Thursday morning. This begins to weaken a little bit. Starts to enter probably an environment with a little bit more shear maybe, lower sea surface temperatures just because it's getting further north. So this is the morning of September the 14th. The Euro and the GFS kind of agree with the placement of this. But what happens after this? Okay, it looks like it's heading just due north. We need this to move northeast. We need this to get this out of here, but it's just wanting to just move more so north. And if we look at this, and guys, when I show you a model run, I do want to reiterate this. I know I just kind of go off sometimes on a tangent there. Please don't look at a model run and freak out. And just like, for example, you know, if you live in Nova Scotia and areas of Maine, I'm showing you this right here. This is making landfall. It's one run of the GFS. It's going to change 100 times between now and then. Maybe not quite literally 100 times, but close to it. Okay? Don't look at this and just immediately say, oh, we're getting a hurricane on September the 15th or 16th. Just don't think in such just absolutes when it comes to model guidance. That's why we're here to give you continuous updates. I know a lot of people are thinking, well, why update us so much if it's going to change so much? Because it's important to get fed new information, in my opinion. It is, because people, when it comes to the weather, snow is really a bad one in the South. People will look at a snow icon on a Tuesday and then it shows a snow icon the next Tuesday, right? A week from that day. And they'll tell everybody and their cousin it's going to snow next Tuesday. Well, you get into Thursday, and then they're not calling for snow anybody, but you still got everybody and their cousin's uncle still telling everybody it's going to snow, and it causes a wildfire chain event. By the time you get to that next Tuesday, I mean, it's 50 degrees, and it's not snowing. So that's a good example of that. But let's keep going. Sorry. We get into like next Friday morning, the morning of the 15th. This is starting to take more of a northeast turn, but it's still heading more so north. And unfortunately, with this run, it kind of plows right into the western end of Nova Scotia, and affects areas of Maine too, the down east areas of Maine. Heads right into areas of Canada. Okay, so you got to wonder, if you were to keep the Euro going, where would it ultimately make landfall? But we don't know, and that's good. The Euro only goes out 240 hours out, and 10 days out is not a reliable time frame. Now, the H-half-A model is initializing 100% as a 997 millibar hurricane. This is our short-range hurricane model that I'm just showing you an example of. Now, watch what this number does, okay? Gradual strengthening, and then it actually weakens, okay? We get into Thursday morning, okay? Stays about the same. It doesn't show any strengthening, so it's initializing well, but in the short-term future of it, one would argue that it's not doing well at all. But then as we get into Thursday evening, into overnight Thursday night, into Friday morning, that's when you start to see some strengthening. And by the time we're into late Friday evening, we have a 961 millibar hurricane. But I would argue it's going to be stronger than this at this point. So I would honestly, so overall, models are just being too weak with this. Okay, sometimes you got to throw models out. All we had, use them as guidance and really look at the environmental background out here that supports big time strengthening. All right, so we look at the ensembles from the European and it shows it well. Okay, and there isn't going to be 37 hurricanes out here. This is an ensemble run. There's 51 members in an ensemble EPS run, and it shows all of them on this model run. So it gets right here into the Atlantic, well north of Puerto Rico, the Dominican Republic, and Haiti, okay, and well east of the Bahamas, okay, and then it makes that abrupt turn north, hopefully misses Bermuda, one way or the other, and then it looks like a lot of these members are almost moving north-northwest, but then you got a few that's heading on out to sea, okay, but that's a big question mark right into here, very big question mark, so. And with the steering currents, guys, it's going to be a tough one. I'll try to breeze through this quick and efficiently here. So this is the European. What does the European show? Well, what we do know is the orange is a ridge of high pressure. Okay, the blue you see on your screen is either low pressure. It's either an upper trough of low pressure, an upper low, a cutoff low. Just think as blue as low pressure, okay? And the steering currents around low pressure is different than steering currents around high pressure. And I'll talk about that here in a second. So this blue blob down here, that is Lee. Coming up this coming weekend, we get into Sunday morning. Here it is. And you see this orange right here, right on top of Lee. Okay, this orange is making Lee go more so instead of kind of north-northwest, more so just kind of west-northwest, okay, as of now. But watch as this orange right here just kind of vanishes. Okay, ridging kind of gets beat down, this ridge of high pressure, and it kind of shifts more so up to the North Atlantic up here. And then here comes a trough. What does this trough do? What we do know is a weakness is opening up, and that's why Lee, we know stronger systems want to gain latitude. They want to head north, okay? As soon as that weakness opens up, that's when Lee begins to move north. You see how it's moving north, but some new model guidance over the last 36 to 48 hours has this ridge beginning to kind of re-amplify right on top of Lee. And this is concerning because the trough over the eastern U.S. does not look as strong. In fact, piece of energy gets cut off down here in the south central U.S. And we go on and take it all the way out to the end of the run. And yes, this is plowing right into the ridge, but it only can plow so much into that ridge. And that's why you see how it's moving north right now. And then we get into late next week, and then it starts to move more so north-northwest. And that is because steering currents around a ridge of high pressure, in this case, would move like this. Okay, they kind of flow like that, and then kind of flow like that, and then go like this. Okay, around this little cutoff low you see right here, steering currents are kind of going like this. So, I mean, honestly, this little cutoff low, if this is what was to happen, would only, unfortunately, aid in trying to kind of pull this kind of northwest. Now, don't look at this and say, well, Mitch saying it's going to plow into the eastern U.S. I'm just showing you an example of 9 to 10 days out, what the Euro is saying the upper pattern can look like. But I can tell you, this is going to have a hard time. Let's go on and get all this all off your screen. This is going to have a hard time just easy like Sunday morning going out to sea, right, with a ridge on top of it. And the currents around this ridge, like I said, kind of go like that. Okay? So, if this is exactly what it looks like, and we don't know, it's going to have a hard time going out to sea. If I'm in the Northeast, New England, Nova Scotia, Newfoundland, I wouldn't be concerned right now, but I would be very aware, for sure. Okay? So it's going to be interesting. So, the big question is, does this ridge kind of get cut off right here and another weakness forms from some sort of upper trough in Canada? Does this ridge try to shift east or east-southeast and get out of here so this can kind of make that move out to sea just in time? It's a big question. It's an ugly arrow, I know. But that's kind of what's steering this in kind of the medium to long term. We're pretty confident a weakness is going to open up here. But, does that weakness eventually get blocked off? And, this is the GFS, same kind of deal, right? Ridge builds on top of this. The trough is still stronger on the GFS than the Euro. You see the blue, this low pressure. So this is going to try to pull it out, but that trough is trending weaker, which is unfortunate for us fall fans in the eastern U.S. And look at this ridge. It's strong on top of this storm, and it's unfortunately kind of strengthening to the south. So that's why this system right here on the GFS doesn't just head on out to sea. In fact, it just kind of more so heads due north and runs right into Nova Scotia and portions of Maine on the latest GFS, because it kind of has to. It can't plow right into this. I mean, it can try, but it's going to have a hard time turning. And the more that this kind of buckles down to the south, this ridge of high pressure builds to the south, the more it's going to be hard for this to just plow into this. If this wasn't extending right here, then it would try to fight a little bit more. So I hope that helps. But we already talked about, the upper wind pattern earlier in the video and why it's doing so well. That will continue. If you want to know more about that, I'll talk about that. I talked about that in yesterday evening's video in great detail, and we'll probably do it tonight. But let's talk about the weather for today, and I'm going to have to breeze through this within about 10 minutes here. So the water vapor loop, there's a strong shortwave trough that continues to move through the upper Mississippi Valley with an associated low pressure and cold front. This is going to spark some severe weather across basically areas of the mid to deep south, and there could be some severe weather as far north as Michigan. So that's what's going on today. And if you look at what's falling right now, we're already dealing with some severe weather in northeast Wisconsin. We got a line of storms. It's rumbling through the UP of Michigan. Let me know what you're seeing up there, Stephen. We got even a flash flood warning just outside of Chicago. And we got some showers and heavy rain moving into areas of Indiana. And we're waking up to some storms around the kind of the Mississippi Valley region into the mid-south of Kentucky, areas of Tennessee. So Storm Prediction Center today, there's a slight risk for areas just south of Nashville, extends into northern Alabama, northern and central areas of Mississippi, all the way into northeast areas of Louisiana and extreme southeast areas of Arkansas. Marginal risk, a level 1 out of 5, extends all the way to the Great Lakes region, all the way to northeast Texas. Tornado threat, pretty low, but as always, not non-existent. Wind threat, you got the 15% risk of winds exceeding 50 knots or higher within 25 miles in a given location. And hail threat, you do got the little baby 5% risk, so some of these storms could produce hail. Advisories today, the heat will build. Unfortunately, heat advisories back up for all of eastern Texas, northern Louisiana, southern Arkansas, and areas in several counties, and western Tennessee, one county, and western Mississippi, one county, including Memphis here, and areas of western Tennessee, and then a few counties in Oklahoma. And then we got heat advisories scattered about in New England and the mid-Atlantic, where somebody will hit 100 degrees most likely in areas of northern Virginia, maybe Maryland today. Let's break it down. Southeast, we'll watch these storms that do develop. I don't think they'll be extremely scattered today, but they will develop really quickly here. And here they are, moving through, and then they'll develop and then weaken with the loss of daytime heating. We'll get a little bit closer look at this. And here they are right here. These storms start firing in southern Arkansas. So, if you're in southern Arkansas, northern Mississippi, western and central Tennessee, some storms fire up as early as 4 p.m., maybe 3 p.m., rumble through. They could be quite intense in certain areas, especially right into here. All right, some gusty winds to greet your happy hour. I'm not your happy hour, but your rush hour on the way home. Maybe it is happy hour for you. And then these rumble through, could pack a punch, could have some additional storms that form back here in northern Mississippi, southeast Arkansas. And like I said, just some small hail, some strong winds are possible, and you cannot rule out an isolated tornado threat, but I don't think there's going to be much of a tornado today. But once you get after midnight, these diminish, and we're done with them. So just be careful in those areas of day. We'll move a little bit further north. Same thing with Kentucky. Not as high as a severe weather threat, but it's definitely a threat there. These storms fire up, and, this is 2 p.m., 3 p.m., 4 p.m., 5 p.m., 6 p.m. Could get some storms near Lexington, Kentucky, near Cincinnati. Could get some storms back near Louisville. These fire up and then they rumble throughout. Not a big day at all, but definitely be aware of some late summer kind of thunderstorms out there. The Northeast, nothing much going on. Michigan could be popping off later with some storms, but the immediate Northeast is pretty quiet. Some storms could move into extreme western areas of Ohio later in the time period, but the Northeast, except some storms that could move into areas of Northwest PA, maybe the southern tier of New York State later tonight into tomorrow morning. It's pretty quiet, but very hot. Speaking of temperatures well into the upper 80s, even low 90s, even into the valley regions of Vermont, New Hampshire, New York State. But I mean, you could hit 95 degrees in New York City today, could hit 100 degrees in Washington, D.C., Baltimore, Philadelphia, upper 90s. Mid-Atlantic will be a U.S. hotspot today, for sure. Even up in Maine, I mean, we're in the 6th of September, and I mean, we're getting well into the mid to upper 80s up here. Okay, swimming weather. South Central U.S., not a very active day today. We could get some pop-up strong storms as far west as maybe central Texas. Could get some storms in northern Louisiana. Some storms could fire in northeast Texas. I know my friend Mary here that comments often, and I appreciate you. I know you said your storms have been missing you. Hopefully they hit you this afternoon. I know we need some rain, as much rain as possible in these areas of the country. But these storms fly through, and then they kind of drift southward, and then they weaken, and then we wake up to pretty much a rain-free morning for our Thursday morning. So the north central U.S., it could get quite active again in the UP. It's already kind of active this morning. UP and Michigan, some big storms could get going. Some that could be strong to severe, and we'll stop it here. This is around 3 p.m. We got storms firing in the UP of Michigan, down here in the southern portion of Michigan. We'll get a little bit closer for you folks, and it's very active. Central UP, big line of storm develops here. These could move through the Green Bay area. You got some strong storms, maybe potentially severe storms down here in central Michigan, and these could drift through the Detroit area. Northern Michigan could get multiple rounds of storms today, and then they kind of move through, and then we're waking up tomorrow morning with calmer conditions and maybe some additional downpours. The western U.S., outside of an area of showers and storms that could fly through extreme eastern areas of Oregon, Idaho, maybe western Montana later today, and these eventually make their way into central and northern Montana. Pretty quiet. Nothing really going on. Temperatures today, very hot in the eastern U.S., mid-Atlantic down to the Carolinas, the deep south to the south central U.S. Very hot conditions, well into the 90s. Someone will hit 100 degrees for sure. But once you get north of this boundary associated with this shortwave trough and low and cold front, it gets more comfortable. Okay, just 80s, 70s. And then when you get into northern and northern areas of Wisconsin, the western UP, and the UP of Michigan will be wild today. You'll warm into the 80s and, the eastern UP, but the western UP only in the 50s. So big time temperature gradient. But man, there might be an area that the struggles got the 40s today in northeast Minnesota. I told you fall is on the way. Beautiful conditions in the northern plains. Nice, pleasant conditions. A little warm up into Montana, but not too bad. Comfortable conditions out west. It really is. So that's all I got. God bless all y'all. Stay tuned for more updates, and we'll keep you covered. Have a great day.